It is June 18th, 2025, and preview season rolls on once again. Today it's all about the Virginia Cavaliers, and I'm really excited to talk about this team. I think there's a lot of things that we can look at these guys and have really a positive outlook on what they could be versus what they were last year. There's some things that we're going to be curious about, some things that we just don't know the answers to, as is kind of typical with Virginia teams, especially if you're not a fan of Virginia or an avid follower of Virginia. A team that you don't always catch on to the guys who may end up being the stars of the future for this team or even of the season. This is a really fun team to dig into, and I'm really excited to get into it. So, without any further interruptions, I do want to say thank you, though. This is Armchair Analysis. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys have had a good start to your week so far. Hope you guys are enjoying the content. We have been every day, minus one, of content straight since we started this series, the preview season series. And I'm always excited to do this. I've done this now in different variations the last couple of years. This has been my favorite so far. I'm really enjoying it, really enjoying taking my time and really diving deep into the programs that we're talking about. And granted, this is all Power 5 teams plus Notre Dame. It's an exciting time. It's truly a lot of fun and just cool. It's obviously the internet's an interesting place on a lot of times, but it's cool to be able to come on here and talk about things and have people in the comment section letting me know, hey, you may have missed this, or there was somebody who was talking about Maryland. Hey, look, I picked them to go 2-10, and I'm not going to hide from that. But somebody came in and said, hey, look, like, this is what this team could be. This is, I know they don't look great, but I think 2-10 would be a little much. Same thing with Purdue. Somebody came in and said, hey, look, Barry Odom's got a really tough hill to climb, similarly to what I said. But, I enjoy hearing that feedback. I enjoy getting to know from the fans of these teams, hey, this is what we think. This is exactly what we feel. And, hopefully you're right or wrong if I'm predicting negatively. But it's just cool to have that solid, respectful dialogue back and forth. It really is all about respect in a world that lacks it so much. Being able to carry it forward and be respectful to everybody no matter what is ultimately the goal here. And obviously that's not always going to happen. Humans are humans, and unfortunately mistakes get made, things like that. But it's a big deal to me to be as respectful as I can from my perspective, and I guess in a sense lead by example with the channel. So with all that said, let's go ahead and talk about the Virginia Cavaliers, and I'm excited. But the one thing we got to do, as we do with every team, to talk about the present and then the future, to predict the future even, we must know where this team is coming from. We must talk about 2024. This is a team that last year went 5-7, 3-5 in ACC play. They were much improved, and I think a large part of that went, you can go either way, Tony Muskett, Anthony Calandria, whoever you want to really give the credit to at quarterback, but the quarterback position was improved last year. This is a team that averaged 22.7 points per game, which was outside the top 100, but it was an improvement, believe me. This team allowed 28.8 points per game, which was just inside the top 100, but again, it's decent for them, and there's a lot of stuff coming back that I think we can talk about and be excited for. Turnover margin per game, negative 0.4. That's 95th in the country. That's about average where we're seeing with a lot of teams that were below 500. So, not really a lot to be, I would say, disappointed in. I mean, nothing to be overly happy about it, but nothing to be disappointed in. And when you come off of a season like 5-7, which is an improvement, and one thing I will say is Tony Elliott in his tenure so far at Virginia we've seen consistent improvement, and whether or not that speaks in the wins and losses category, as of now it has not spoke in the wins losses category. But what it has done, we've seen the genuine improvement on the field, and the product become better for Virginia fans and for the college football world to see alike. I was a big fan of Anthony Calandria last year and really thought that maybe he was the future of this program. Looking at what they've done over the offseason, because they've gone relatively unnoticed, not talked about, This team has some interesting pieces that I think could provide a lot of leadership, experienced pieces that could provide leadership as well, and really push this team maybe into bowl contention. Hard to say. Looking at the coaching staff, though, you got Tony Elliott, head coach, Des Kitchings, offensive coordinator, going into year 3 now as offensive coordinator, and then John Rudzinski going into year 3 as a defensive coordinator. These guys have worked together. These guys know, this staff knows what really is on the table this season. This is a team that's going into the year sitting at 6.5, over under 6.5, which I would say, I think that's the most they've had since I've started covering college football, which goes back to probably 2021, really. So, with that being said, this is uncharted territory for Virginia. The expectations are uncharted territory for Virginia. I apologize, I accidentally just smacked my mic stand. But it really is. It's uncharted territory. They don't know. They've never been in this position. They've never been looked at as a middle-of-the-road team. They've always been looked at as, well, there's Virginia. You know, that's our easy win in the ACC conference slate, and then we move forward. They're not setting up that way. The big reason I say they're not setting up as an easy win is because of quarterback Chandler Morris, coming over from North Texas. Has also spent some time at TCU. He spent some time at a few different places, but Chandler Morris is a quarterback that I have a lot of really, I would say high hopes for, I guess. I don't know if high hopes is the word, but if the floor may be higher than it would have been with Anthony Calandria. The biggest reason for that is because this team hasn't had an overly experienced quarterback, especially the FBS level. And again, probably since they went to the ACC championship a handful of years ago. This team going to be led, I think, in large part by Morris, and he's going to be a big part of how they perform. If he's successful, if he's taking care of the football, which has been troublesome in his Power 5 tenures, they do all of those things right. I think we're talking about a team that may be a 6-6 or 7-5 or maybe even better. But we're also looking at a team that we have a lot of unknowns in skill positions as well. You look at running back. They got Xavier Brown. Jamari Taylor is going to be transferring in as senior. Noah Vaughn's going to be returning as a redshirt sophomore. They've got 3 running backs. I'm not really sure who it's going to be. I'm expecting Xavier Brown to be the kind of lead back in this whole thing. You look at the wide receiver room. You got Cameron Courtney, Trell Harris, and you bring in Jamal Edron, who's coming in from Purdue. I think that's going to be, again, it's an interesting wide receiver room. It's not, I'm not going to say bad. I don't think bad's the word I would use, but I would say unproven. I think there's a lot of things that I just don't know about this team. I think there's a lot of people that would say they don't know what to expect from this Virginia team. At tight end, Dakota Twitty is going to be the expected starter. You got Sage Ennis as well, a grad transfer. A graduate student, but had transferred in the past. I think Sage Ennis is going to maybe be a little bit more involved in the offense, maybe be a slot guy, who knows. And then as for the offensive line, their experience, they bring in Brady Wilson as a grad transfer to play center, which is going to be, I think, a big deal to have somebody in the middle with that kind of college experience. As a whole, though, I'm not buying stock in the offensive line, but I am saying that they are experienced, and I think that them all being upperclassmen will play a little bit better of a factor than we may expect. Again, I'm not saying this is going to be a top, I wouldn't even say maybe top 50 offensive line in college football, but I do think they're going to be better than they were last year, and I think that that's really all you can ask for. As for the defense, there's 7 of 11 players returning from 2024. You got 4 transfers, those being Kazim Moore, Mitchell Melton, Jason Privard, and Devin Neal. Not that Devin Neal. Devin Neal, grad transfer safety. Leaders returning from last year, it's basically Cam Robinson, and that's about it in terms of production. Cam Robinson had 64 combined tackles, 5 sacks, and 6 tackles for loss. And he returns, and he's going to be a big deal leading the middle of that linebacker room. And he's really going to be the leader of the front 7. If I were to take my wildest guess, it's going to be Cam Robinson. This team didn't force a lot of turnovers, has not forced a lot of turnovers in the Tony Elliott era, and it's proven. They had only a handful of players force a fumble or an interception last season, and the leaders are at one for the multiple. This is, I think, a team that really has to tone up their aggression, because if they don't do that, they continue to play the conservative style, especially on defense that they've been doing. It's not the toughest schedule in the world. I mean, I can go look at it. It's not overly difficult, but there are a lot of teams that are going to improve this year as well. And there's some road trips in there that don't make things any easier. I think that it's, if we're talking about last year's ACC, if we're talking about what ACC was in 2024 with this Virginia team, I'm probably a little higher than where I sit right now. But this team is not far out of the realm of bowl eligible. It's just kind of where I've already sat on some teams and where I feel the rest of these guys will land. So let's go ahead and take a look at this schedule. And I didn't pull this up the way I should have. Oh well. Mistakes happen. You get Coastal Carolina, William & Mary, and Washington State as part of your non-conference. Your conference slate starts off in week 2 with NC State on the road in Carter Finley Stadium. That's going to be a tough game. Stanford, I mean, look, I'm not buying into Stanford, so I'm going to say it's a lighter game. Florida State's going to be tough. Louisville on the road is tough. Washington State coming out of a bye week is okay. Is what it is. Non-conference game, weird spot. At North Carolina, at Cal are going to be tough. Wake Forest in the middle of all that, I think, is a team that by this time in the year is going to know who they are, and they're either going to be decent or they're going to be probably bottom of the conference. I don't think there's anything more than decent for them. At Duke, that's a tough one. And then Virginia Tech, who has been better over the last couple of years, at least on paper, and still stacks up that way. But Virginia Tech has not lived up to, I think, what they probably have potential for. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and predict this Virginia schedule. And it's going to start with that Coastal Carolina game at home. I like Coastal Carolina. They're probably one of my favorites for the Sun Belt East. I think they are my favorite in the Sun Belt East. But I don't think they're good enough. I think the Sun Belt is starting to fall into that position where the MAC was, where their best players get poached by the SEC, really, whereas the MAC typically gets poached by the Big Ten, some SEC. You kind of get where I'm going with this. They've got a lot of their players that go in and out every single season. I think it makes it difficult for the Sun Belt to be competitive because they're not competing on an NIL basis or really even on a national level to the point where anybody's put in playoff contention. Without being a playoff contending group of 5 team, you're probably not beating a Power 5 opponent at this point. So Virginia is going to get the win there. They'll go on the road to NC State, and you can kind of tell where I'm going to go with this, but I'm going to give them a loss. If this game's at home this early in the season, I'm probably taking Virginia because I trust Chandler Morris over CJ Bailey, presumed starter at NC State. Given this game is on the road, tough environment. I love Dave Dorn. Trust him more as a head coach. I think that's going to ultimately all around together make NC State come out of this one on top. Get a win over William & Mary, and if you watch my Stanford video, you already know I have a win for Virginia over the Cardinal at home in Charlottesville. Sorry, I'm trying to... I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, so you're starting at 3-1. I think that is really best case scenario. 4-0 would be something borderline unreal. But I just don't think 4-0 is in the cards. 3-1, I think, is certainly possible, and I think you'd be really happy with that. You move on from that game, though, with this game against Florida State, and I think that Florida State is much improved. I think that the Gus Malzahn offense is going to start to have itself figured out a little bit at this point in the season. It's going to make Florida State just a little bit too much. They'll get the win, Virginia will take the loss there. They'll take a loss again on the road at Louisville. I think that this game is just in an interesting spot where it's going into a bye week. It's on the road. And truth be told, Louisville's a better team. Louisville, on paper, is the better team. It's all playing against Virginia here. As for Washington State, though, it's not really playing against Virginia. I think this game being in Charlottesville is a big deal in terms of who can win this game. You put this game at noon in Charlottesville, we're talking about, I would say, even more certainty to me predicting a win here, but I am giving them a win. I think they'll be 4-3 here. It's a big win over Washington State because that's a tough opponent. They're not. This is another team that got poached by the portal. Everything that was good about this program is gone. And they have to figure out who they are and how they're going to continue to go forward. You lose Jake Dickert, you lose John Mateer, you lose Ben Arbuckle, you lose your star wide receivers. Like, it's all gone. And you have to figure out how you're going to rebuild and put this thing back together. I think it's going to be a little bit too much to do in year one. Virginia is going to be the better team. I think they'll get the win at home. You go on the road against UNC, and I'm not going to say this is a foregone conclusion win for North Carolina because I don't believe so. It really depends on where North Carolina is at this point. They are expecting to be a playoff contender because they're led by Bill Belichick. They're led by quarterback Gio Lopez, who I really love. Think he's one of the best players. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, and I wholeheartedly believe it. This game being in Chapel Hill makes me more confident on North Carolina. I'll give the Tar Heels the win. If you watch my Cal video, which is the most recent ACC team we previewed, you know I'm giving Cal the win. I think that this game being out there in Berkeley, that's a tough adjustment. Travel is going to matter in this conference, and that's why Cal and Stanford don't really have the best records, because I think that they're going to struggle with all the travel, plus trying to work out all the kinks that they're going to have on their programs and in their rosters. At this point in the year, though, I expect Cal to be kind of figured out, understand who they are, be a much better team. At least better than what they start as. You get Wake Forest at home, and I think that this is going to be a fun game. I like the matchup, the coaching matchup. What I'm trusting is that Wake Forest is going to have themselves figured out. I already predicted Wake Forest season. I'm giving Wake the win there. You go on the road to Duke, has a much better team than you. Plain and simple. Duke's going to get the win. And then Virginia Tech at the end of the season. Can you win off of a bye week in your rivalry game, even at home? I'm saying no, tentatively. Virginia Tech, again, just better on paper, but by this time in the season, who knows? They may not even have a head coach at this point in the season. It's not out of the realm of possibility for Virginia to win here. And truth be told, anywhere, if I'm circling here, you can see my mouse, anywhere from North Carolina on that I've predicted a loss, which is every single game from North Carolina on, any one of those games can be turned around except for one, and that's the Duke game. I think the Duke is, with certainty, better and going to be in a position to maybe compete to go to Charlotte. And if that's the case, we're not even talking about the Duke game being changed. But you could flip 4 numbers here. And instead of 4 and 8, you could be 8 and 4. A genuine 8 and 4. Is that going to happen? I don't think that's realistic. Truthfully, I think 4 and 8 is the floor. I think 7 and 5 is the ceiling. I think that you don't go better than 7 and 5. Whether you beat NC State, whether you beat North Carolina, Cal, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, even Florida State or Louisville, if you steal one of those games. I don't think 8 and 4 is reasonable to predict. It would be kind of reckless to predict that. I'm going with the under on 6.5, though. I think they make a bowl game at most. Sit probably somewhere in the 4 to 6, I think is like perfect. But I could see a 7th in there if they really get there. They won't win the ACC, even though that's plus 8,500, and they will most likely. Now, I shouldn't say won't, because just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it cannot happen. Now, in saying that, they are not winning the ACC, and they are not winning a national championship, and I don't think they expect to. I think their expectation is to make a bowl game, be competitive to a bowl game, and truth be told, come out of here at 500 or above. When you look at this schedule, and you look at proven commodities anywhere on the schedule, there's 2. There's 2 teams that are proven winners over the last handful of years. There's 3, actually. NC State, consistently, no matter who's on the roster, is a competitive team, and really is bowl eligible, closer to 8 wins perennially. Louisville has been doing it, and Duke, ever since Mike Elko took over, has been doing it. Florida State, minus last year, has been figuring their stuff out too. Mike Norvell's been doing a good job. Those are the 4 games that I think that you are just not better on paper. Everything else is really up in the air because we don't know about North Carolina, how they're going to gel, how they're going to work out. We don't know about Cal. We can expect Cal. We can expect things for Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, and Stanford. But we really don't know. We have no idea because last year I predicted Virginia Tech to win the ACC, as did multiple people. I did not predict them to win the ACC. I predicted them to play in Charlotte for the ACC title. And they didn't come close. Florida State also did not come close, who was my ACC champ and in my playoff. So things happen and things change. It's not impossible. I'm just not buying stock in anything more than 6 wins. So, in a long way, 4-8, 1-7, and conference play. Let me know what you think. If you are a Virginia fan, I understand you're a little frustrated. Hey, I'm not high on your team, and why would you want to talk to me after that? Let me know in the comments. Give me a reason to be high on your team. Give me a reason that 4-8 should be the floor, should be the absolute bare minimum, which I believe it is. But give me a reason that should be worst case scenario for this team instead of, I don't want to say most likely, but more likely than 7 or 8. Give me a reason for that. I'm all for those. I'm all ears to hear everything that you have to say because, again, you know your team better than I do in all but 2 cases, and you can probably tell. The preview season, though, it rolls on. And by the way, I did write a paragraph for this team. I wrote 2 sentences. I said they improve at quarterback. The rest of the roster is quite the mystery. I think that's the case. What I would also add is that I think Cam Robinson is going to be the proven leader of the defense, which I said earlier. So that's what I have for Virginia. Tomorrow, back in the Big 12, we're going with Houston. I'm excited. Willie Fritz, one of my favorite coaches in college football. He's bringing in a new quarterback, and they're bringing in a new era of Houston football. They're expecting to win. Super excited to talk about them. After Houston, we go to the Big 10. We got Michigan State, and then we go to the SEC. It's Vandy, and Diego Pavio's been talking a lot of smack lately. I'm excited to see if that's going to be able to be backed up or not. All that and more over the next week. You can also go back and check out the previous videos that we've done. The entire playlist is here on the channel. Make sure you check it out. If you've gotten this far, leave a like, subscribe. Of course, comment. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.